Hello and welcome to another MovieBoozer.com virtual pubcast. I'm your host, Ken Eggman. I'm joined by Bill Arsenault
Hey, everyone.
and Hawk Ripjaw today.
Hi.
Hello, I am Hawk Ripjaw. This is how I talk when I'm introduced.
Talks like Roger
Yes.
Corman.
Could be worse. Could be talking like David Lynch.
Or Tom Waits.
Or yeah,
Uh,
hey, everybody.
Talking like Tom Waits sings.
We're going to talk about some movies. Or is that's Nick Nolte.
That's the.
What was it that you were saying to me?
Ow.
It gets worse in every movie.
Oh,
Yes.
The worst ever is in the scene in Warrior when he is just drunk off his ass. I was just trying to be your father, and I was all like, "You wouldn't be nice to me," and so I drank this whole bottle of whiskey.
Jesus. Sounds like he was. Sounds like he was drowning at the same time, gargling water.
Drowning in booze.
Yeah, okay, close enough.
All right. So we have some movies to discuss this week. The first one is a movie that I've been looking forward to, and sadly haven't had a chance to get out and see yet. But the 2017 movie directed by Christopher Nolan called Dunkirk.
You know, Ken, you would have been great doing the voice for Movie Phone back in the day.
This is Movie Phone.
Hello and welcome to Movie Phone.
Would you like to hear a selection? Press 1 to continue.
Remember that Seinfeld episode where Kramer's phone got redirected from Movie Phone?
Yeah.
And so he was reading movie listings like with joy and glee. He was like, "Hi, welcome to Movie Phone. You have selected Brown-Eyed Girl." And the other guy's like, "What?"
And then he finally goes, "Why don't you just tell me what the name of the movie is?"
Yes.
All right, so Dunkirk.
Dunkirk.
Hawk, you saw it, and Bill, did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it in 70 millimeter.
All right, wow.
As did I?
So tell me about it.
Oh, you did too?
Yeah, per your suggestion, actually, I found a 70 millimeter showing about 15 minutes from where I live.
Oh, nice. All right.
Cool.
Well, you know, this is a first I want to talk about the 70 millimeter projection. This is the second time I've seen 70 millimeter in recent memory. The last time was the Hateful Eight Roadshow, and they didn't show trailers before that. They just went right into the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So there was really no immediate visual comparison between digital and film. Here they actually opened the evening for Dunkirk with the AMC Entertainment advertisements before the show. So we got to see the commercials, and it was all dim, you know, and it was, you know, kind of squished a little bit, the image. And then finally it gets into some of the trailers, and they only showed two trailers. They showed, I forget what the first one was, but they showed Justice League, and both trailers were on film. You could easily see the switch over from digital to film. And when they hit film, it was brighter, it was flickering, it was colorful, you know, it was just full of life. And
The first trailer was Blade Runner 2049.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, that's what it was. Yeah. And I immediately told my friend who I was with, I was like, dude, you could totally see the difference between the digital and the film. And he's like, yeah, Bill, there's no talking in a movie. You know? So he didn't say that, but that was what I was, you know, noticing. And throughout the movie, I was just taking note of how big and bright and beautiful the image was.
Yeah.
And it was just a blast to see.
I was surprised that they only show so generally speaking, every time I go to see a film at AMC, I want to tweet at them after the movie because the pre-show stuff is so fucking long. It makes me want to set myself on fire. There's like the pre-show of, you know, it's the
Maria Menounos.
No, it's just like AMC talking about like, oh, and you know, this is AMC. and then it's about 25 minutes of
come
commercials.
Come get our snacks, and then it has
Yeah.
like a commercial about something else. Then it's got a behind the scenes feature for a new TV show that's about to happen.
Well, not even that. That
else.
stuff's fine because that stuff plays before the start of the film.
Okay.
But I'm saying, like, if I go to a 3 p.m. showing, there's all that stuff before 3 p.m., which is fine. But at 3 p.m., there is, a little talking about, AMC and here and, everything. It's like, keep an eye out for the exits and stuff like that. Then there's 25 minutes of commercials. Then there's one more thing before the movie. Remember to turn off your cell phones. And then there's one more thing of those fucking AMC little red ball things.
Oh, God.
Flying around on a helicopter and plugging a giant straw into a giant Coke, and then the movie finally starts. So by the time in the movie, it's a fucking half hour later.
Yes, that is true.
But Dunkirk,
is it really a half hour? The longest I've ever sat is like 25 minutes.
25 is
I'm just being sarcastic here.
I know, but that's still way too long in my opinion. Yes. I mean, it should just be quiet, blank screen for a while, maybe some advertisements, and then get into the trailers. And maybe a movie theater opening video crawl, like, welcome to AMC, here are the trailers,
but Bill, if you do that, then you're not going to have the theater chain's ability to to sell themselves. I know there's this theater chain that's in central Illinois and Iowa and stuff called Warenberg, and they have this jingle they play at the beginning of every movie that's like this chorus going, Warenberg Digital Theaters, and you just and then you hear people whisper, Warenberg, in the background.
That's kind of cute. That's kind of cute, though. I mean, like, I would rather that shit over the AMC shit.
Yeah.
That's just me, though. AMC overdoes it.
AMC is the worst, but then AMC is also probably the largest theater chain in the U.S. So they are the most corporate.
Yeah, you're right. They try to. Yeah, you're right.
I don't mind the pre-show stuff just because any business can pay to have a little advertisement before the trailers and everything starts. So every once in a while, you'll get a really obviously shitty commercial for like a fucking orthodontist or something. And it's like they made it 10 minutes on an iPhone and then edited it in GarageBand or whatever the fuck it's called.
GarageBand.
Or the movie version of GarageBand.
iTunes, or not iTunes, iMovie.
iMovie,
but we get hand surgeons. That's our version. Hand surgery of Louisiana. Come see.
That's funny.
And it's like some kid with a deformed hand, and I'm like, oh god.
One thing I love about the theater in my area that I go to most is part of a small chain called the Goodrich chain, and they're mostly just in the Midwest. And Goodrich theaters, all they do to pimp themselves is they have they'll show you they'll show some advertisements before the movie, then the trailers start, and then before the movie plays, they will show one of those turn your cell phones off things, but they film their own turn your cell phone off ads, and they're like these little, I would say, college film student level MIDI productions, and they're not particularly funny, and they do get annoying after a while, but they're short. So
that's always
mercifully short is what I will call it. I think the longest you have to wait is like 15 minutes, and it's how sad is it that that's short these days?
Yeah,
yeah.
One of the theaters I used to go to when I was living in Wyoming, all it had like 10 minutes of commercials, and then it's like, hey, this is presented in Dolby, and then a very like maybe 15-second graphic of a giant straw sucking down some Coke, and then the movie started. Like, it was a clean 10 to 15 minutes. And again, 15 is a long time, but then I go to an AMC theater and I'm literally waiting almost a half an hour to see a film.
When you said that, I just had in my image a line of this giant cartoon animated straw snorting a line of cocaine.
Out of its ass? Because it's like, it's already a straw. So it would just use the bottom portion of the straw to do it, right?
Yeah.
I'm just imagining a disembodied straw that maybe make it, give it this little smiley face, and then after it does the line, you see the face just go.
It looks like one of those headshots from SpongeBob SquarePants where the face looks all craggly and they got like bloodshot eyes and everything. You know?
The face turns into that fish that just goes chocolate, 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 and he gets. So that's how he gets
chocolate.
And this is where it sells it sells your products, because after doing the line of Coke, he sells you on going to get some chocolate from, the.
There you go. Yeah, from the snack bar. Yeah.
Snack bar, right? So anyway, tell us about Dunkirk.
I think we already did, didn't we? Let's move on.
Yeah, we didn't say a damn thing about it.
So I'm a noted, I have a noted disinterest in war films, and I had trouble kind of figuring out why that is, and then it finally hit me. So I kind of it was like really late at night, I couldn't sleep, and so I just kind of just wrote this in the middle of like trying to sleep.
Okay.
So Dunkirk is very light on characters. There are characters, yes, and there are stars in the movie. Kenneth Branagh, Tom Hardy, and a few others, but none of them feel like stars.
Okay.
This isn't a movie for movie stars. It's not like Tom Hanks and Matt Damon in Saving Private Ryan, where it's like, hey, that's Tom Hanks. And somebody... What?
Nothing.
Hanks for the memories, is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. There's a GIF, by the way, of Tom Hanks. He's got the word next to him that says thanks floating next to his head, and then he reaches up and waves, and his hand covers the H, so it says T Hanks.
Of course.
So it's this, like, somebody on a discussion for Dunkirk said that this movie would have been better. They said it was boring because it would have been better if everyone had character arcs. And one of the actual literal examples they gave was that Tom Hardy is a recovering alcoholic whose last chance at redemption is to shoot down the Nazi or the German bombers.
That's just too much.
That's fucking stupid, and that's kind of why.
Yes.
Yeah, this is why I don't like a lot of war movies, because, and I told Ken this, is that so many war movies, they take the war and use it as a backdrop for character development, where like the war is more of a vessel for these people to find their redemption or find their character arc. Whereas Dunkirk was a film of just this massive conflict with all these very insignificant people being caught in the middle of it and becoming significant in their own ways, but still just pawns in this huge almost world-ending conflict.
It sounds like to me, just based on what you've just explained, that to me that's more of a classic style war film. Movies like The Longest Day, where every character in it is really just essentially, for all intents and purposes, a very small player in a larger scheme. Now, that said, The Longest Day is also an excuse to see celebrity actors in small roles, sure, cameo for 2.5 hours. But the way you're describing it sounds to me like there isn't one single star of the movie. Is that what you're going?
There's not at all. Yeah.
Okay.
Harry Styles has a cameo.
Well, another example of that same thing, Richard Attenborough's film, A Bridge Too Far, one of my favorite war movies, actually, which is about Operation Market Garden, one of the pivotal battles in the war. And yes, there's a ton of celebrities in it, but it's not about watching the celebrities, although if you want to star watch, you could. It's really just, like you said, it's this huge campaign with a lot of background to it, and you watch as all of these small characters play their particular roles in it and make history, for better or worse. That's what I find fascinating about it.
It's kind of like that. Like one of the biggest things for me that it was so satisfying about Dunkirk is that, when it's these other war films that I don't like, it's like, hey, look at these 5 assholes who are doing their own thing in the war. Whereas Dunkirk is like, you know what? Fuck those 5 guys. This is about the 300,000 men that needed to get evacuated.
So in other words, I mean, honestly, the way you're describing it, you're really much more for the, because that in like the 1960s and the 50s, a lot of war films were much less character based and much more big picture. And so maybe what you need to do is start looking up some of those older ones.
Yeah, I do remember liking that. What's his name? It's Kirk Douglas, the Kirk Douglas movie.
Kirk Douglas war movie. You mean Paths of Glory?
Yeah, I think so.
Kubrick's movie.
I think so.
World War I, French trenches.
Yeah, I liked that one.
Oh, okay. Well, I would argue that's more of a character film, but perhaps it's more a film by film basis. I don't know.
Maybe. But
I would actually argue. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. It's somebody online put it really well. It's about it really unfolds across 3 different settings and following about 5 or 6 different characters. Like, you know, I say follows and focusing on them, but really it jumps around so much between them that they still feel insignificant. But they all end up working together in ways that they don't really realize.
Playing a part.
What?
They play a part in the bigger...
They play a part, and most of these characters don't even have names. I mean, Cillian Murphy's character is just credited as Shivering Soldier. The main character's name is Tommy, but I don't think his name is ever spoken until, you notice that the main actor is billed as Tommy.
It's worth noting that Tommy, that actually plays a very specific role, the name in military, and that the Tommies, that was kind of a nickname for British soldiers.
And Tommy was the British soldier, so he didn't even have a name. He was the Tommy.
Yeah.
So what were you saying, Bill?
I was going to say, while this movie doesn't really focus terribly on character arc, that's not to say it's not there. The movie is very loose with its plot and character arcs. It's very much a movie with one goal in mind, and that is survive and showcase the event. It's almost reminiscent a little bit of what's his name, Paul Greengrass's 9/11 movie, Flight
World Trade Center. Or United? That's
Oliver Stone.
United 93.
United 93. It's almost like that, where it was very much like Fly on the Wall.
Yeah.
I don't mean to say it's the same thing. I'm saying the type of storytelling mechanism used was a little similar. The way they were captured was completely different. One is mostly like handheld, and this one's more controlled and big and epic. But there is character here. There are characters here, is what I mean to say. Especially the Tommy and his
companion,
ragtag group of wannabe. I guess you can call them cowards, but they're not really cowards. They just want to get off the island. They want to leave.
Yeah,
but they want to get off quicker. They want to get the hell out of there. It's a war zone. It's crazy. And through it all, they do kind of end up becoming heroes in a way, even though their intentions may not have been 100% pure. They find a way to get to that point. And that was kind of part of the point of the movie, was you don't have to be this grand hero of a battle to still be a hero. Sometimes surviving is all that you really needed to have done. Even when they I don't know, that's not really a spoiler because the event was true, but when at the end of the movie, when they're all coming back to Britain and they're about to get on the trains, they're given like tea and food and blankets and stuff, and one of the soldiers is like, all we did was survive. He says to one of the old guys who's giving them stuff, and the guy's like, that's all you needed to do.
It's worth noting that the guy that was handing out blankets was supposedly a World War I veteran who was blinded by gas. That's why he wasn't looking at anybody.
Oh, okay, I see.
The movie is filled with these really fantastic character moments, and Nolan achieves such an incredible handling of visual storytelling that there are so many things that are conveyed just by what's going on in the screen. Like when Tommy first meets his companion, they just look at each other for a second, and Tommy like holds out his hand, and the other soldier hands him his water jug. They notice the boat's getting filled up with evacuees, and is that a word?
Evacuee?
Yeah. Okay. And they're sending the injured ones first, and the two of them notice that there's a soldier abandoned on a stretcher in the middle of the beach, and then they don't say anything. They're not going to say, "Hey, let's sneak onto that boat by carrying this guy." There's an immediate cut to them picking up the. They look at each other and they pick up the stretcher and they start running towards the boat because they know that that's what's going to get them onto the boat is by coming on with this guy. And so there's so much that's said without saying anything. I think between the two main, Tommy and his buddy, probably less than a dozen lines between the two of them altogether.
Yeah, and they're racing. Like there's this really anxious race to get to that boat before it takes off.
Mm-hmm.
And while it was going on, at first I thought they were doing it for, to save this guy. But then I was like, oh, wait a minute. That look they gave each other was more like out of desperation. They want to get on that boat too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, and they're kind of like using their shoulders to get through the crowd, of other soldiers. They're kind of, they're not shoving anyone, but they are kind of brushing people aside just to get through, and they're doing it not with contempt, but definitely with, in a hurry. They're doing it like, okay, we want to live. Let's get on this fucking boat, and we got a guy with us who's injured. That's our key to getting on this boat. So there's a lot of urgency in this movie. The whole movie is nothing but urgency.
Right.
But it's not always. Oh, go ahead, Ken.
I was going to say one thing that's important to note about the Battle of Dunkirk, and I'm sure the movie outlines this, since I can't speak from having seen it, but I'm very familiar with the history. And while Dunkirk is historically seen as this big success in the eyes of the British public, in that they were able to save so many people, it was really a military failure in that the British were running from the Germans. They needed to get the fuck out of there as quick as possible. And the only real victory that was to be had was that they were able to get as many people off of that slip of land as they could. I think that so many people pitched in to help.
The movie definitely makes that clear that that the operation leading up to the movie, the battle, was a failure for the Allied forces
right.
at the time, for the British and the French and those guys, and that now the focus was save as many military people as possible, get them off the beach, and in that moment, in that goal, that's where the real victory comes into play, is in that spirit to get them out of there.
But there's still that desperation, because at one point, one of the soldiers is talking to the commanders saying, why don't they send us more ships to get us off of here? And he says, well, they're saving those ships for the next battle.
And why Dunkirk didn't end up being seen as a failure was the fact that Churchill, the prime minister at the time, he was so him and his propaganda machine was so good at spinning it by saying, by spinning it into a morale victory that so many people were able to be saved. It really changed the outlook of what was really a very sad point in history. And I just find it I find it an interesting subject, and I'm hoping that the movie conveyed that the mixed blessing that was.
It kind of did at the end. It wasn't. It was very clear. The movie itself was clear cut in what it was trying to convey, but it was also doing it in a way that made you think a little bit. Like, okay, these soldiers who survived, specifically Tommy and his friends. They're on the train, they're heading home, or they're heading to the base or whatever, and they have time to contemplate what they just did over the past week. Like they were basically running for their lives and trying to survive, and they were almost comparing themselves to animals on a sinking ship in a way, like rats or something. And so they're like, they feel ashamed kind of until they read Churchill's statement in the newspaper. And it's hard to say in that final look what Tommy feels. Is he still feeling shame? Is he feeling a little sense of like rabble rousing? Is he going to keep fighting? Is he going to, continue on, or like what exactly is going to happen? But the movie's pretty clear cut in that's what it was about. And that in that moment, how Churchill kind of turned the tide, as you were saying, and how this was scene. You know, Dunkirk wasn't a failure. Now it's a moral victory.
I really love that little, very subtle piece of symbolism of naming one of the major characters Tommy, because that is, if you look at the history of particularly World War I, but the British Army in general, it was very common to refer to your as a generic term for British soldiers as Tommies, and I'm kind of reveling in that. I think that's a beautiful little statement.
Absolutely, yeah.
So with regards to the movie itself, the cinematography, I take it, was pretty.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, from every standpoint, it was great. But considering this is Christopher Nolan, and he always works with great cinematographers, or at least ones that he sees can accomplish something great with him, however you want to spin it. They really do open up the frame and let you kind of breathe in the landscape and how it's, you know, like there are all these extras that were used for the beach sequences. They may have used like some cardboard cutouts and a few other tricks here and there, but most of it was pretty practical. And the camera kind of, you know, like I said, it lets you soak it all in and take in from the air and from the sea and from the land all these different feelings of the environment, and how there's almost, I don't want to say a Werner Herzog-like feel to the nature of the movie in terms of how the environment is captured, but there almost is something to be said about man and nature in a way, because the movie takes place and it differentiates these three different situations all in this one situation by land, by air, and by sea.
Right.
And they all take place over different amounts of time.
Yeah, the by land it's 1 week, I believe, and the other two are like about an hour or two.
By land was a week, by sea was a day, and by air was an hour.
Oh, okay.
And of course, because
the film is episodic in that respect.
No, not really. It's more like once again, Christopher Nolan finds a way to fuck with timelines and stuff. Because it's weird because not only do these things happen in different amounts of time, but they
cross over a couple times.
They cross over. They're sometimes placed out of sequence because a character that you see in a different state of mind earlier on in the movie is shown from earlier on in a more sound-minded state, because the Tommy and his buddy during their week-long ordeal, that thing happened to them at a different period of time than what's happening and what you're watching now, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of out of sequence, and it was a little confusing at first, but once I figured out what they were doing, it was better. By the way, it's Hoyt van Hoytema was the cinematographer for this movie. Cinematographer of Interstellar, Her, and Let the Right One In, among others.
Yeah, very good photographer, definitely.
Spectre.
Spectre, yeah. Suffice to say, the movie has a very epic feel despite being about 90 minutes. You know, like it's not epic in length; it's epic in what is on the screen. And
yeah, one of my favorite shots of the film is when you've got a shot behind Tom Hardy's plane, and the camera just pitches to the left. I mean, it tilts to the left, and so the picture turns 90 degrees. And the scope of the skyline with the ocean meeting the sky, it was just jaw dropping.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. Like, for example, Tom Hardy's fighter pilot friend, his plane goes down, and we don't see what happens to him until a little later on. But we finally catch up to him, and he's trying desperately to break out of his seat because he's kind of stuck. The glass shield over his cockpit is like, stuck in place, and so he's trying to break through it and everything. And yeah, and meanwhile, his plane is sinking, slowly but fast, into the water. So he's only got like minutes, of air, and it's interesting. I was thinking, like, how did they get these IMAX cameras to be in such confined spaces and without like annoying the actor or anyone else, I wasn't sure how they pulled it off, but they pulled it off.
Yeah, I would love to see a making of featurette of this because I think they used those real World War II British planes for this movie. They also Nolan also weaved some actual Dunkirk footage in there as well for a couple of shots, I'm told. But kind of coming off what you said about that cockpit scene is this movie is relentlessly intense.
Yes,
I mean, the level of tension and the sound mix, like this movie's fucking loud and it is punishing. It's ridiculous. Like when the gunfire.
Fair to say, Fury had some of the most amazing sound design I'd heard in a movie.
Better, I'd say it's more intense than Fury because when
pretty fucking intense.
Yeah, when the bombers come flying over, those planes are screaming. The gunfire often comes out of nowhere, so there are several very startling moments of all of a sudden just something starts shooting or a bullet hole appears in the side of something, and it's just like by the time the last scene of the movie is somebody reading off a Churchill speech, and then the music has changed, and the fact that it's finally over, at least for now, like the movie finally kind of winding down in terms of tension, it feels like an emotional release.
I'm going to take a guess that is the speech that they're the Churchill speech, his famous "This is our finest hour" speech. That's the one. We shall fight them on the beaches.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, that one.
Okay. It should be noted that
he did that, I think, on June 4th, like literally the day that the Dunkirk evacuation ended. So.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, I was. The way that film or the way that ending came together with the editing of the speech and the footage that they showed of the different characters and they're back home and you know what Tom Hardy was doing was so well put together. I actually genuinely got choked up with how well put together that thing was editing wise.
And it should be noted too in tapping into the whole anxiety and tension of the movie that starts really from the beginning and doesn't quit until the very end is in the score.
Yes, Hans Zimmer did it again.
There's this clock type noise you hear, like tick 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 tick, and it keeps ramping up as the danger grows and grows. You know,
Hans Zimmer Hans Zimmer used Nolan's pocket watch to do the ticking sound instead of rhythm.
Yeah,
the fact that Christopher Nolan owns a pocket watch automatically tells me, yep, he's a hipster.
He totally is. I mean, he made it.
He's a non-ironic hipster.
Yeah, he's fucking serious about his pocket watch.
He's pretty serious about it. He's not doing it just because it's stylistic.
Yeah.
But there's this great shot in the movie.
I bet he has a monocle too.
He probably does. There's this great shot at the beginning of the movie where they're on the beach and a bomber is coming in, and like Hawk said, you hear it screaming it through the sky, and you don't really see it, but you hear it just going, coming in, and then everyone dives down, lays down on the ground, so that way they don't, potentially they're covering themselves. And we see Tommy, his point of view. He's laying on the ground. We see his face at about the left side of the screen, bottom left, and in the background, the bombs are dropping, and sand and people's bodies are bursting, and it's going from the farthest back part of the screen all the way to just about where Tommy's at, and that's where it stops. And I thought, like, holy shit, to be that guy in that situation, you got to be counting your blessings. Completely.
Bits a little historical trivia for you on that. The creepy sound of the German dive bomber, the Stuka bombers. Mm-hmm. Mounted on every single Stuka bomber was a small siren that was called the Jericho trumpet, and it was meant as a propaganda piece to freak people out when they went in for the dive.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like a whistle tip.
Exactly, it's a whistle tip. Yeah, but I love the name Jericho trumpet. Isn't that fucking spooky?
That's spooky.
I like it.
Spooky.
They knew how to scare the shit out of people, and
they could have just been themselves. That was scary enough.
Yeah.
At the time.
So that was, that was why a lot of people say that the Blitzkrieg victories, one thing that contributed to it was just the the terror that it instilled in people, hearing hundreds of those go off, and knowing that was a bomb that was headed right for him.
Yeah, it's intense. So this will amuse you both. Somebody did this, one of those things where you put two YouTube videos together to mash them up. Someone was like, "This is what the soundtrack of Dunkirk was." The first video was the rising tone, like from The Dark Knight, where it goes.
Oh yeah,
to build the tension, and the second one was the 60 minutes clock ticking sound.
Oh, that's funny.
And I listened to it and I was like, yeah, that's kind of fucking accurate. But it's a really good soundtrack, and it really kind of that tension and kind of it juxtaposed with one of my favorite things of the movie was very small but extremely significant moments of heroism from ordinary people. And I won't say like the three that I love the most. I won't say what they are, just so I don't spoil it for Ken. But I don't even know how to say what they are. But it's just they were really good moments where I just saw it and I was like, that's incredible that this one person did that for somebody else. And there are moments of just putting aside differences and putting aside anger and putting aside personal investment, and doing what has to be done for the good of everybody else trapped on that beach.
Mm-hmm. Well, you were saying earlier about how really the theme of the movie is really that survival is really the sort of in the bigger picture. The movie is about survival and helping others through that, and it made me think, to give another war movie reference, the closing narration at the end of The Big Red One, Sam Fuller's movie, is the main narrating character dedicating the story to I'll go ahead and read this here, to those who shot but didn't get shot. It's because it's about survivors, and surviving is the only glory in war, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
That's the final words of the movie. And I was just thinking what you were describing kind of made me think about, the profoundness of that, of that simple statement.
Yeah.
And anyway,
but yeah, I mean, my closing thought is, it's crazy that a movie that wasn't really on my radar, and I honestly probably wouldn't have seen had it not been directed by Christopher Nolan, and hadn't gotten such great reviews, is I've gone from not really being interested and not really liking war movies to this possibly being the best movie I've seen this year.
Interesting. Okay. Well.
Yeah.
Bill,
just to say, this is very much like a horror movie.
Yeah.
So it's almost a reverse horror movie in some ways. What I mean is, it's horror, but it starts where the girl is running up the stairs away from the killer. That's where we start, and it doesn't seem to end. It's just a constant chase. There aren't any jump scares necessarily. It's just there's no like cue for a jump scare. It just like Hawk said earlier, shots just happen.
Yeah,
and it's startling because they take that sense of preparedness away from you, because there is no getting prepared for this. It is a movie of high anxiety and
high anxiety.
Yeah, I know, high anxiety and great rewards. I would highly recommend this. I actually I joined up with the New Yorker magazine's Facebook page for movies. And I forget what it's called, the movie fan club or something. And they asked on there, what's your favorite movie of the year? And I said, it's a toss-up between Silvio and Dunkirk.
That's an interesting mix.
I mean, Silvio is really high up there, too, along with Logan. I think it's probably between those three for right now.
Yeah.
I wonder if Armand White reviewed Dunkirk.
Oh, boy.
He did. He did a I don't know if I want to read it, but he did do a piece about Dunkirk and Valerian. It was a double feature review.
And let me guess, he loved Valerian, right?
I have no idea. I didn't read it.
I would bet money that he did. They're also, I was talking about.
I just pulled up the article, and I'm just going to read the title of it.
Okay.
Because I think you'll. It says here, Nolan trivializes history while Besson vivifies the future.
God damn it! Fuck.
Oh yeah, good old Armand White.
I was talking to you guys about the Emoji Movie before we started broadcasting, which is 0% Rotten Tomatoes, and there was somebody dropped the joke on Reddit. It's like, yeah, who's gonna be the first one to give a positive one? Armand White. And somebody else was like, I guarantee you at the end of the year he's gonna say Emoji Movie is better than the Lego Batman movie or Captain Underpants.
Oh well, to be fair, none of us have seen the Emoji Movie yet. It could.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's keep telling yourself. I say you keep telling yourself that, but I actually I actually mused about the very same thing just last night. I think I said, what if this is the next Lego movie where the trailer sucks, but it's really funny? However,
well, I'm just going to take a guess in advance because currently the Emoji Movie stands at a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes,
right, and an 8 on Metacritic.
Right, and there are 19 reviews counted. So,
yep.
I mean, granted, that's not a lot of reviews, but not a single person has come in and said anything. And it doesn't take much to get a positive Tomatometer review. All it takes is for the person to say, you know what, it was more worth seeing than it wasn't. That's all it takes to get a positive review on the Tomatometer. So, I mean, reading some of these quotes, excuse me while I scan my phone for the vomit emoji.
Here's my let me read. Do
yourself a favor and swipe left on this one. That's pompous as hell, by the way.
That's pompous, but here's my favorite blurb from the Wrap.
Okay.
Let me pull it up here.
While you do that, I'll read one more. This one is from the Film Journal International. There were ways that the Emoji Movie could have been smart and satisfying, but the filmmakers just didn't find them. Maybe they weren't even looking.
I saw that one. Here's my favorite. It's not no puns, but it just really, like, you can tell this person is not happy. This is Alonso Durald from the Wrap. It is a soul-crushing disaster because it lacks humor, wit, ideas, visual style, compelling performances, a point of view, or any other distinguishing characteristic that would make it anything but a complete waste of your time. Not to mention that of the diligent animators who brought this catastrophe into being. He gave it a 0.
Oh, wow.
I like this one. Alyssa Wilkinson from Vox says, looking back, it seems so obvious. We should have seen the Emoji Movie's utter awfulness coming. But as with so many other things in 2017, hindsight is not so much 2020 as a giant regret generator. Which tells me that she saw that trailer and thought that movie looked good. And I would like to have a few choice words with her.
I'm really curious to see what Will Ashton says about this movie if he sees it.
He has, you know what? He has a interesting mix of opinions on films. So
he does, and he has a very curious affinity for shitty animated films.
Wow! When he posts.
But,
okay, well,
maybe not that much, but I only speak in terms of the Boss Baby. But he had a whole podcast on Shrek, and I don't know. I think he might have some interesting things to say about it. But who's reviewing this weekend for Movie Boozer?
That's a good question. I would have to check with Zach about that.
Is it not you?
No, I'm not going to movies.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I can't.
I'm sorry. Because you're always given the shitty ones.
Yeah, I know, and I have a. You know what? I guess I could say the one benefit of being friggin' crippled by a knee dislocation injury is you can't go out at all, and so therefore, no, I have not been able to see the Emoji Movie.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I just want to say that your personality and your passion shines through even through your debilitating injury, and I almost forgot for a second that you were still in bed. So that's kind of a good thing.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I'm getting better. It's just it's a long road.
I know. I'm sorry that I reminded you about that.
No, you didn't remind me. Do you want me to get dark? Every single day is a constant reminder. Every breath.
If I have time this weekend, I will follow the Emoji Movie Sword to discuss it next week.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to get dark? Let's get fucking dark.
Rips
Let's
off
get
his
nuts.
shirt. Yeah. You want to get nuts?
Let's get nuts.
Everyone who can make it to the toilet on their own, raise their hands. Oh.
Oh.
I probably won't be able to after the Emoji Movie.
That pounds.
There's a lot of one last thing on Dunkirk. There's a lot of Bane posting because
because Tom Hardy wears a
Tom Hardy wears the mask. It's like one of them was nobody knew who I was before I turned up the bass. And like then there's like a series of responses to that on Reddit where they just like they tweak the airplane conversation to match Dunkirk. And that Bane posting always makes me laugh because it's so fucking it's like the dumbest meme ever, but it's so funny.
All right, so
somebody says this is a loud movie, and somebody responds for you.
For you.
Fucking stupid.
So we're gonna go ahead and move on to The Raid 2, which is part of Hawk and I have our ongoing movie exchange.
Yeah.
And this week it was Hawk's decision to have me watch the sequel to The Raid, which he had me watch the original a few weeks back.
Yeah.
Now,
so tell me what you thought.
Well, I thought that The Raid 2 as a continuance of the first film feels like a miscalculation because it's not so much a sequel as it is a completely different movie set in the same universe. The Raid 2 is not a balls-to-the-wall action movie. It does contain several balls-to-the-wall action sequences, but it's really more of a slow-moving like crime drama. Like it's the martial arts crime drama version of The Godfather.
Yeah.
or actually more accurately, in the terms of in the terms of gangster films, it's much closer to, say, let's see, what's that one with Johnny Depp and Al Pacino?
Oh,
Serpico?
No, not Serpico. It's a three-word title. Something.
I just Googled it, and Donnie Brasco.
Oh, never mind. It's a two-word.
2 words.
Because Donnie Brasco is Johnny Depp infiltrates the mob, and Al Pacino is his Al Pacino is his the guy he ingratiates himself to within the mob in order to do that. And so take Donnie Brasco and intercut the occasional scene of people beating the living piss out of each other.
Yeah, it's interesting because you make a good point with that. Like it is a slow moving film with just explosions of spectacular violence. Mm-hmm. But for me, like the again, the spectacle of those action sequences is so insane that it kind of counterbalances the slowness of the plot, which a lot of characters that don't matter enough for the amount of weight they're given. But the jump in quality and scope of the action from the first film gets my blood pumping like nothing else.
I don't know if I'd call the martial arts a jump in quality. I think the first movie was pretty friggin' amazing. And if anything, the fact that the movie was literally from beginning to end nothing but martial arts action, it really I didn't appreciably notice that much of a difference in terms of quality of the fighting.
I think it comes down to the scope. Like, there's the car chase is ridiculous. I mean, the kitchen fight is probably one of my favorite fight sequences of all time. They add 2 secondary villains in the form of baseball bat guy and hammer girl.
Baseball bat guy and hammer girl,
which is it sounds dumb when you say it out loud, but it's a brother or sister who one of them kills people by smacking a baseball at them and then killing them with a baseball bat. And then Hammer Girl has beats in heads and slices open throats with dual hammers.
No. Baseball bat guy. And I don't know. There's something very superhero-y about it.
It is, but like they're such brutal, vicious characters that, you know, when initially you think that, oh, like I saw before the movie came out, I saw this video. It's like, hey, watch footage of the introduction of Hammer Girl, and I was like, oh, this movie's gonna suck, isn't it? And then I saw it, and I was like, holy shit, I would not want to be in the same subway train as she is.
Very true.
One thing that was weird is how they recycled actors.
Yeah. I mean, actors who play completely other roles.
Yeah, and
that got a little confusing to me, honestly, but it's not unheard of for it to happen. I mean, hell, Sergio Leone recycled actors between films in the Dollars trilogy.
Sure, yeah, but the Raid 2, as a direct continuation of the Raid 1, you have Iko Uwais, who killed this one guy in the first movie, and then he's back as a different character, same actor, just with longer hair and a beard. I was like, did he fake his own death and run away for a while, like Bruce Wayne in The Dark Knight Rises? Mm-hmm. But it was a little weird. But once I kind of figured out what was going on, it was fine.
Wait. Iko Uwais, he still played Rama, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. The movie is a continuation.
I thought you were saying Iko Uwais played that other guy you were talking about.
No, sorry. Uwais killed the guy, and then that Mad Dog, and then Mad Dog came back as this person with a machete. So I don't know. It's a little bit of a quibble there, but again, I think for me, it's all about the spectacle of the action. Yeah,
I mean, and I think that's where the Raid 2 works, is in those spectacular action sequences, and the drama was interesting, but I don't think it was quite as fleshed out as maybe it should have been, and it wound up feeling a little bit like, here's an action sequence, so time to look at the screen, and here's the sequence where people are talking, and who gives a shit. And I really could not be drawn into the story. The Raid 1 is such a strong precedent to make a sequel that has a completely different mode, so to speak. I mean, I think for me it worked in like Kill Bill 1 and 2 because it was clear that there were two very separate ideas of continuing the story. And I guess it was filmed as a single movie at one point, apparently. But I don't know. Overall, I would say the Raid 2 is it's not nearly as watchable as the first. So plus, it's 2.5 goddamn hours long, and it did not need to be with the story that they had to tell.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
I have no problem with the movie being 2.5 hours long, but you have to, you
gotta be able to have something behind it.
Exactly. So anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on it. Any other closing thoughts on the movie, or?
No, not really. Just I saw this. I saw it in theaters when it first came out. So that might have been part of it. Is that I had no way of getting away from the escalation of the violence and the action. Like every fight. Gareth Evans is great at doing this. Is that his fights just ramp up and up and up and up, and it just gets more and more intense and violent until finally everybody's dead.
And yeah, those action sequences are great. I cannot say a word against them. I just can't.
I'm just saying that I think when having that kind of setting to experience that movie was
it's certainly a more ideal situation.
Sure, yeah. But I completely agree with you. Is that the story? I mean, gun to my head, I can't really remember much of the story at all, other than people fight each other.
Rama infiltrates mob, and in the end, he kills everyone.
Yeah, it's again not a very interesting story. So completely valid point there.
All right. So with that said, we'll go ahead and move on to a movie that Bill A. saw. Mr. Arsenault, you saw The Bad Batch.
The Bad Batch.
The Bad Batch.
Bad Batch.
Welcome to this week's episode of The Bad Batch. Today's guest is going to be Louetta King.
Fuck you, Jeff Foxworthy.
She's going to be singing her hit country song. I don't know. I was going with that.
My dog died and someone stole my truck.
That's how you know I'm a redneck.
I have a television on top of my other television.
When your gun rack's got a gun rack on it.
Stop it, please. I fucking hate him.
Okay, all right.
Comedy
too. Your fifth grade is your senior year.
Okay, I'm done. The Bad Batch, is by filmmaker Anna Lily Amirpour, who directed in her debut feature, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, which is a wonderful film, one of the best of the year that it came out, which I think was 2014,
something like that,
yeah. And that was billed as an Iranian vampire western. I would just say it was like a romantic horror movie in a way. It had this wonderful romantical feel to it, and but of course it also had.
It did not have. It didn't have your classical Western gunfight kind of stuff, but I would say cinematography-wise, I could certainly see the Western kind of influence.
Yes, absolutely. So people were looking forward to her second feature called The Bad Batch.
The Bad Batch.
The Bad Batch, which we just made fun of a little bit a second ago. I did not catch this at my local theater. I had to rent it on Amazon Prime. In fact, I had to rent it twice because the first time something happened, there was like a weird glitch with the video. They fixed it, and everything was fine after that. But the movie reminds me very much of the premise to a 70s film, or I think it's a 70s film, might be a late 60s film, called Punishment Park. Have you guys heard of that?
Yeah.
I am not familiar.
If you don't know Punishment Park, basically it's like this super authoritarian American government. They round up like hippies and basically anyone speaking against the government and have them play a game of like capture the flag. But it's very violent. It's like battle royale, and the movie has a very like, I don't want to say nihilistic, but it's very no, it's not nihilistic. It's more aggressively morbid ending, in that none of it mattered. You were going to go to jail no matter what. No one gets out of it. The movie is very much critical of America, to say the least. But it had that, dystopic, apocalyptic, kind of feel to it. And very much the Bad Batch has that too, and also is critical of American society in many ways. The movie opens in some kind of a weird prison. We don't really see too much of it. We mostly get close-ups of people, where a woman named Arlen is being tagged with a tattoo, and then it's like a number, kind of like in, like this is her prison number, and she's being sent out into the desert, I think just outside of Texas, where there's a sign that says you are now no longer in America, or maybe you are I forget exactly what it was. It was either she was entering America or she was exiting America.
Is it like a
it's like a place where
the purge thing where it's like U.S. laws do not apply here.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
Oh,
and it was a deserted landscape where there was pretty much nothing, and it was essentially for like prisoners or ex-prisoners and undesirables, that kind of thing. And it's a piece of land called the Bad Batch, and she's heading for a town within the Bad Batch called Comfort, led by the Dream, played by Keanu Reeves.
The Dream.
Yes.
I have read some things about the Keanu Reeves character in this movie.
Yes. Believe it or not, he's actually probably I don't want to say the hero of the movie, but he's definitely the shining spot in terms of optimism. The movie from there, things get really both dark and balance out at the same time. Arlen ends up losing her arm and her leg to a cannibal tribe. And she ends up getting out of that and makes her way where she finds some kind of a bummish, homeless-looking nomad played by Jim Carrey. And he carries her in a shopping cart to comfort.
So you're saying Jim carries
her?
Yes, Jim Carrey, the comedian.
No, he Jim carries her.
Yes, Jim Carrey.
Yeah, Jim carries her.
I didn't mean it like that.
I mean,
but
Ken and I both arrived at that joke at the exact same second.
Exact same time, yeah. Right. Anyways, the movie has a really weird cast and utilizes them in very strange ways. Giovanni Ribisi plays this like schizophrenic guy who talks to himself a lot, and that's pretty much his only thing, is that he just talks to himself a lot. And he's only there for like 2 or 3 scenes in the background. Jim Carrey plays a silent nomad who just wanders the landscape looking for things to trade and being weird and shirtless. Jason Momoa for some reason plays like a Cuban from Miami who is also a cannibal.
And let me guess, he plays a big barbarian like dude.
Well, he is a big barbarian-like dude.
Exactly.
He played Conan.
Every movie role he's ever had, he plays a big, imposing barbarian. So,
I want to see Jason Momoa play like a really sensitive character in a drama or something.
Well, he can't help it. He can't help looking like that unless he were to get fat.
No, not fat. I'm talking about like buff-ass Jason Momoa, like in a really sensitive role.
Sensitive performance, yeah.
Yeah, his character completely just rejects the physical look of Jason Momoa.
It seems to me that there was some sort of movie a few years back that he might have been in that was let me look. Okay, so maybe not. I see a movie that Jason Momoa actually directed, and I was thinking maybe not, but then I read the description. I was like, oh, yeah, no, he's still playing a barbarian in that.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe he can do something. I don't know. But his plot involves the disappearance of his daughter, who actually was taken by Arlen, the woman without the arm and the leg, in a sequence that got a lot of criticism from various reviewers and moviegoers. So much so that actually at a Q&A that Amirapur was at, she was asked about this particular scene, which involved Arlen. That's kind of a spoiler, but at the same time, this was made public, so it's not really a spoiler. Arlen's character, who was a victim of some cannibals, finds she leaves Comfort for a little bit, the little town she's made home, and she goes outside and wanders around for a little bit and finds this black woman and her daughter just looking for trash and refuse and stuff, and Arlen pulls a gun on her and shoots the black woman almost just immediately. That's just what it was, and it was supposedly because she doesn't like cannibals and she knew they were cannibals, that kind of thing. But if you read the scene in a different way, you could see it as like a message against white privilege or a message about white privilege and racism and stuff. And so they brought it to the director's attention, and she just kind of brushed it off and made fun of the person asking.
Yeah, that really turned me off of this movie because it sounded interesting, and then I heard about this and I was like, you know what? You're going to be a shithead, I'm not going to watch your movie.
Right. But I decided to watch the movie anyways. I was like, I'll push ahead and see it, And I saw that scene, and there were many ways you can read that sequence. But the way it's done, it led me to think that maybe it was kind of woven into the point of the movie or whatever Amirapur was trying to get at. This movie's not really like about one particular thing involving America. It's kind of like Spring Breakers in that it's like Spring Breakers was like the youth of America, in all of its different forms and different machinations, if that's a word. I don't know why it felt like it was appropriate to say that.
No, I see what you're saying. Like when I read a description of the scene, I think maybe Amirapur kind of has a problem with black people. And then when you describe the movie to me, it seems like either she knew they were cannibals, maybe everybody's cautious and nobody's safe, so or maybe she's just mad, or there seems like there could be a lot of subtext could be pulled from that, but maybe not the
there is a lot.
I
think there is. Yeah, I think this is an issue where it's like intent probably doesn't matter. What matters is what the audience thought. And
Right.
What I think is, I don't think she was being racist or anything, but at the same time, maybe on a subconscious level, there might be something there. It's possible, but I think what was going on was, see, after after she shoots the woman, Arlen feels bad about what just happened.
that almost makes it worse.
Which is fun. That makes it worse, yeah. And so she essentially takes the little girl that was with the woman, I guess who was the daughter, and starts caring for her in some, like almost looking after her. And this, of course, eventually leads Arlen and Jason Momoa to meeting up, and things go from there. So there's a lot that can be read in that, maybe this was a statement, or maybe on a subconscious level, this was the sequence was saying something about Arlen and her relationship with different kinds of people, specifically people of color, because Jason Momoa is playing a character, even though he is a person of color himself in real life, he's playing a character that is from Cuba, Cuban immigrant, and she also just shot a black woman. Mm-hmm. So, there also happen to be cannibals. So she has a reason beyond their color to dislike them, but you can't ignore the fact that they are people of color, and the people who are white are seen as not cannibals. So they're not necessarily better people. They're just not cannibals. So that there is a lot of there are a lot of things at play here, and I think it kind of goes into the whole landscape of current America, or where America has always been. And the movie's not just about racism. I don't want it to seem like I'm drawing a picture where it's just about skin color. The movie does get into some stuff, about it's mostly about like relationships and how we deal with one another, kind of. But there are a lot of there's a lot of symbolism in this movie involving the American flag and hopes and dreams, things of that nature, dog eat dog kind of world, kind of stuff.
I see Jason Momoa is credited as Miami Man.
Yes, because that's the tattoo.
Like a salsa dancing superhero.
Actually, believe it or not, Ken, when I was watching this movie, all I could think of was Jason Momoa doing a salsa, because he wears these pants with what do you call those things that you wear over your shoulders to hold up your pants?
Suspenders.
Belt?
He wears these.
You wear a belt over your shoulders?
I don't.
Yeah, really. I was about to say he was wearing suspenders. He was shirtless with suspenders and pants, and the whole time he's walking, it looked like he was sashaying while walking. Like he was turning his hips back and forth like he was dancing the entire movie. And I kept thinking, like, is he going to break out into a salsa at some point?
From what you're describing, this sounds like a very interesting mix of thematic and tonal ideas that never come together as a coherent piece.
You're correct.
At any time in the movie, does Miami Man approach someone and go, "Let's mambo"?
Does he call himself Miami Man?
No, that's just tattooed on his chest.
Oh, Miami. God damn it. That's terrible.
He's totally Miami Man from now on.
He's
Jason Momoa.
Did Harmony Korine produce this?
Rated R.
No, Vice did.
Why?
Yeah, I know, right? They also distributed. They also produced her first feature, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. But you're right in that. You're right in that this movie, a lot of its ideas, which are very good ideas, and a lot of its themes and a lot of what it's trying to say are very interesting, but it doesn't necessarily come to, like you said, a cohesive or good even finish.
It sounds like Armapur put together. She came up with the story. I'm sorry, she came up with the setting and characters and themes before she came up with the story. she like had those things and then wrote a movie to tie them all together.
That sounds about right, though I would give her a little more credit than that, but that sounds about right, actually.
There's a phenomenon amongst filmmakers known as the sophomore slump, where after a filmmaker comes out with something that's really seen as innovative and creative, their next movie kind of disappoints because everyone has this idea that they've put in their head about them, and that rubs off on the director, who now seeks to try to meet up with those demands rather than do something for do something that they want to do, and sometimes it results in little failures.
Well, I wrote on Letterboxd the following: contradictory, too oddball for its own good, yes and no to both. This is a movie that is confidently itself, but its self is either terribly aggressive with provocativeness or confused as to what it wants to say. And I think that kind of accurately describes it. It's very, it's got enough chutzpah and bravado to make it entertaining and interesting to watch and interesting to discuss, but it doesn't quite come together well. It's very like, what exactly was I watching? And not in the Kuso kind of way. Thankfully, not in the Kuso kind of way. This is actually a good movie, I think, but it's not.
Damn it, you got me. I was 5 seconds away from saying, speaking of something that.
It's not terrible. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars on the Movie Boozer scale. That's about 3 beers, maybe 2.5.
Okay,
if you're pushing it. So it's okay. It's not a bad movie, but there are some things about it that are a little awful. And there are other things about it that are very awesome. It's kind of got a give and take quality to it.
Well, I'm definitely going to watch that.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm interested in it because it sounds like one of those things that I could appreciate what I wanted to do. And there was Arm Report's thing against that lady in the audience, but I think she eventually apologized for it. And of course, I don't know if that was because everybody got pissed off at her or because she, was like, hey, you know what? I didn't have a way to explain my passion for this movie, and so I lashed out a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the context was either, but she took some time off of Twitter, definitely. I think maybe she may have direct messaged the person.
She did. She said she said, I'm sorry I said that, and I'm going to reach out directly to the person that I apologize.
Yeah, so hopefully that did in fact happen, but
to be fair, the other lady, she was like, well, that's not good enough because I'm still mad. So I don't think anybody's totally in the right here.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't really know. It's been a long time since
something that's not totally in the right. Kuso is a movie that
Billy. Oh god, yeah. This was
you assholes made me watch this movie.
Okay, let me try to set things into place here because this kind of started with me. As far as our circle goes, this started with me. I had heard a little bit about Kuso before I was actually aware of his existence. I heard someone named Flying Lotus was making a movie, and I was like, okay, that's a weird music name, but okay, you kind of got me a little bit. And I'm a writer for Film Thread on occasion, and a movie came across my inbox called Kuso. And I was like, oh, this is the Flying Lotus movie. And I was like, all right, I'll check it out. I'll see what's up. And I kind of sat on it for a while, but eventually I decided I was going to watch it. And I was like, hey, Ken, you want to do a Rabbit thing, which is Rabbit is a website that allows you to watch movies or anything really, like television shows, that kind of stuff, with people all across, the country or the world from the comfort of their computers. And he said, sure. And I was like, how about Kuso? And he looked up Kuso and was like, all right, yeah, let's watch this. This sounds fucked up. And I didn't really know what the plot was, if it had one. If you could say it. After seeing it, it doesn't really have a plot, but there are some commonalities going on. But
there is, if you read the synopsis in various sources behind Kuso, there is a basic outline of an idea that all of these things that the movie's about are supposed to surround. Apparently, the movie is about survivors of a violent earthquake that destroyed Los Angeles.
Supposedly, yes.
Which I wouldn't have known had I not read a synopsis.
Yes,
Exactly.
that's always a bad sign that the movie's not good when you have to read about it to know what you just watched. Because the movie should explain itself properly, you know. So we watched it, and my God, I wanted to pull my hair out. I wanted to shut off the screen. I wanted to leave the room.
Yeah.
But
So-
I was like, for the sake of Ken, I'll stay and finish this. Ken convinced me to finish this.
I convinced simply because we had started it, and I have this thing where I don't walk out of a movie. I just don't. And once I pulled the trigger on that, it's getting finished.
Yeah, and you guys actually watched it before I did, and I expected this to be kind of an interesting movie. You know, like I heard all the stuff about it, and I think I heard about.
Sorry.
I think I heard about Kuso shortly after you did, Bill, because it was on a Cracked article about it. Cracked has really clickbaity titles, but they actually have really interesting articles to go along with them. So it was like 5 movies you won't believe are getting made right now, and it was Kuso, The Bad Batch, A Ghost Story, My Entire High School Sinking to the Sea, and It Comes at Night. And so, you know, Kuso had been on my radar since at least last October. You know, I was kind of interested to see it, and I heard it was like crazy, and I was like, I kind of like this. Tim Heideggers in it. I'm interested in it. And then the two of you refused to tell me what you thought of it. You said, just watch it without our opinions.
That was on purpose. That was with intent.
Yeah.
At Ken's insistence, we were like, do not tell him what we think of the movie.
Here's the thing. I know for a fact, and Hawk, you better not deny this, that you have sort of a masochistic approach to watching bad movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if I had warned you in advance that this movie was horrifyingly bad, I think you would have gone into it with the wrong mindset.
I would have probably eaten it up, huh?
No.
No. I can't imagine anyone wanting to eat this movie.
Here's the thing. I get the feeling sometimes when I tell you that a movie's bad that you assume, oh, okay, so maybe I'll find it entertaining at least.
That's accurate.
I didn't want to give you that impression because this movie is not entertaining bad. This movie is just fucking bad.
I mean, throughout the movie, like, I wish I could show you guys the look on my face. I watch it, but you know, when the first time, what was the first nasty thing that happened? It was,
oh God.
I don't. The first thing that happens in the movie is that weird song thing.
Your God is in the underground.
Which I kind of liked. I was, you know, that prime movie is like, this is going to be a R-rated, post-apocalyptic Little Shop of Horrors, just gore fest musical, and
it wasn't.
Then the real movie started.
Yeah, basically that was the kernel of the idea, and they just gave up after that and made it a sketch film.
Well, one of the first things I remember happening, I'm sorry, was that little kid who goes to school and takes a shit and feeds it to a monster.
Yeah, which steadily grows a head inside of the mouth.
He feeds it to the giant anus mouth thing.
Anus mouth, yeah.
The first thing that actually happens, that I just remember this, is the couple, they fornicate by way of the guy jacks off while the girl strangles him, and then they smear his semen all over their faces. And my response was pursed lips and nodding my head. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's happening right now. Mm-hmm. And
so
I think I didn't.
I love you too.
What's your hold on, Hawk? Was your response, yeah, that's happening right now, or was it, yeah, that's happening right now?
That was not the latter. Was not my response. I was like, yep, they're doing this in this movie. All right. And I wish I would have made tallies, but I think at least a dozen times in the movie, out loud, I was like, come on, man. Like, this is like, why the fuck do they have to do that?
It does. That reaction comes out a lot. Like, for example, when George Clinton shits a slug out of his ass, and a guy who's sitting beneath him tears off a tentacle off the slug and subsequently starts sucking the remainder.
Yeah, or the
guy who fucks the guy who fucks the neck pustule that's talking.
Oh, Jesus. And then or the two furry aliens that live with a girl, and they abort her, set to sound bites from Mortal Kombat. And they smoke weed out of the aborted fetus.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to pause for a moment and mention that this movie's focus is on what is ostensibly supposed to be gross out humor and shocking.
Humor's a stretch.
Well,
I wouldn't call this funny.
That's why I qualified it with supposed to be.
Okay.
And perhaps we should compare this to one of our favorite movies last year, The Greasy Strangler, which brought gross out and shock humor to kind of a high art form.
Totally, and it was so comfortable with it. By contrast, Kuso pushes and pushes. Like every second, it's trying. But Greasy Strangler never tries; it just does.
Yeah, and I think that's a very strong line in the sand that you need to draw. Is that Kuso is first of all, the lack of having any kind of coherent narrative. Now, don't get me wrong, Greasy Strangler cannot be accused of being a particularly strong narrative, but at least there's a through line for you to follow.
It kind of is a strong narrative, kind of filtered through a different lens.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a story, father and son story. They're competing for the same woman. And, it kind of just does its own thing with that. But again, everything that happens in The Greasy Strangler happens because that's what the movie wants to do. The Kuso is, I'm going to do this thing in this movie because I think it's going to be funny. Whereas Greasy Strangler is, I'm going to do this thing in this movie because this is what's happening in my movie.
And the sense you get in The Greasy Strangler is that these characters are seeing their inherent grossness and disgusting nature. This is how they live their lives. They are gross people, but they are people. That's the feeling you get. These are characters that I'm watching. Whereas in Kuso, the sense you get is just the filmmakers trying to do something sick again.
There was only one bit that I kind of chuckled at, and that was when Tim Heidecker, he's playing the stalker of this woman who's with the transdimensional beings, and she goes into the bathroom to take a pregnancy test, and out of the toilet pops Tim Heidecker. He's like, "Hey, how's it going? I was just in the neighborhood. It's just his head sticking out of the toilet, and he's got a turd sitting on the very top of his head." And
there are these very random moments throughout the film where they shock you with something that manages to be kind of funny, but it goes away just as quick as it comes.
It went away. Yeah. Don't even say that word.
That funny Tim Heidecker scene. I mean, like when he pops up, it's funny, and then all of a sudden it gets not funny because he talks about their sexual experience where they were having sex, and then he thought that she died for a second, and he said it was like fucking a dead dog, and it turned him on. And I was like, that is really offensive. Like,
yes, and then
that was not a tasteful joke in any sense at all.
No, of course not. And then later, when they return to Tim Heidecker, it's just him bare-assed fucking a doll that looks like a vagina, something like
giant that. Vagina torso, like raw turkey thing, like.
Yes, and it's just confusing.
I liked the design of the aliens.
Oh yeah, the transdimensional beings. Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool. They're furry and they've got like TV screens for faces that with animated talking mouths. Like that was kind of a cool character design.
Definitely.
So I just pulled up the Wikipedia page here, and they actually lay out exactly what is in the movie, like sketch wise. There are four basic plot lines, if you can call it that. And if you want to read it in great detail, I can't even say what these descriptions are just because they're just so wrong. Like the one about the two people in the apartment complex. It's just okay.
I thought that was going to be the framing device for the whole movie, was these two people are choking each other with belts while having sex, or sort of, and there's a TV set, and on the TV set is going to be the skits we're going to see. I thought that was my guess.
That's kind of what it was, because after every sketch there's a burst of static, like it's the channels switching.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't really framed from their perspective, though. It just kind of jumped around.
Can we talk about the fact that the animator of The Amazing Salad Fingers also worked on this movie and how disappointing that is?
David Firth, yeah.
Yeah.
He also voices a few characters, and here's the thing. It's a big leap to take from Flash animation to the major motion picture, and
I wouldn't call this major, but
well, to go from Newgrounds.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah, because David Firth, that's kind of where he got his start. Is of course, Salad Fingers is what he's best known for. I think he has a sense of humor that translates into short form, but as far as extending it out to lengthy sequences, I am yet to be convinced of it.
Yeah.
Dead silence, and then
I'm just thinking about the movie.
It's painful.
It's vile, and it's not.
I sent you guys links to a Talk House podcast between filmmaker Terrence Nance and Flying Lotus, where they talked about Kuso. Mm-hmm. Did you guys listen to it?
Not yet.
I didn't have a chance to get into it.
Okay, I'll describe some of it. Basically, it's these two guys laughing their asses off for an hour as Flying Lotus says ridiculous things like, yeah, man, I went in for an STD test one day, and they scraped the inside of my dick hole, and then I made a movie. And Terrence Nance, who's a better filmmaker, I would say, he made a movie called An Oversimplification of Her Beauty, which is on Fandor right now. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of confounded, and his only response is to laugh. Yeah, he's having a friendly conversation with this guy, but at the same time, you can kind of tell he's a little like, what the hell, man?
The feeling you get from the movie is that it's designed to be this transgressive thing that teenagers are going to pick up and say, "Oh, look at they're making poopy noises."
Yeah, I described it on Letterboxd the following way: I get a strong whiff, and I use the word whiff, in a very, very
we got it
fine way, that this wasn't meant to be funny, but to be shocking on a level not yet seen or felt. This is no Pink Flamingos. Hell, Divine wouldn't waste one taste bud on this turd. It's just a dumb, numb bummer.
Dumb, numb bummer.
Yeah, I don't know why I rhymed there, but, whatever.
Yeah.
But I like the taste bud on a turd line. That was my favorite bit that I wrote recently. Pink Flamingos is like a fucking masterpiece in and of itself, and of transgressiveness and of dirt and of filth, but it's even beyond that in a way. But Kuso, I've read some reviewers not quite praising this movie, but certainly talking about it in sort of high regard, as this wonderful crass piece of art.
It's got some decent reviews.
It does. The movie really should be getting 0 rating reviews, or 1 stars or something. Something lower, because it is not even by the standards that these reviewers are grading it by. Is it good?
Yeah. Another reviewer made a very interesting, intriguing point. Okay. That the movie is about loss because there are so many shots that linger on family photos of people that have perished in the earthquakes, and even the forced abortion by the transdimensional beings of the girl in the apartment. There's a brief look of horror and somberness on her face before she's like, "Yeah, let's smoke out of this thing," but just that turn right there emphasizes the fact that this movie tries to have its cake and eat it too. Like, it can't be an examination of loss and how people deal with it, and a fucking nasty body horror sketch comedy midnight film at the same time.
I think Flying Lotus, what he was going for was something based off of his own fears, which were of the human body and all the horrible things that can happen to it.
And he's terrified of earthquakes too.
Supposedly, but that never even factors into the movie. I don't remember there being one fucking earthquake.
Well, the movie opens with a shot of the thing that they do that has the lion.
Oh yeah, there is that. But but that's it.
Seismograph.
The seismograph, but that's it. That's the only visual reference to an earthquake ever. Then it just jumps into a weird song in a news desk. There's nothing really to grab onto in this movie, or that you would want to grab onto, and so much that the last bit of the movie is really just one. Is really just a 2-shot sequence where you got a camera that is far away on the other side of the room from where the action is. It's just sitting there as this guy is sticking his penis inside of a talking neck pustule on this woman's neck. And the neck pustule was like egging her on, like, yeah, stick your dick in me. Da, 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 da. And the guy's like, I don't know if I want to do this. And, he eventually does it and finishes. And then it's just gross and boring and flatly shot. And, you can tell this in the podcast that I linked to you guys. Flying Lotus says, I've never made a movie before. What the hell am I doing making a movie?
Yeah, you know what?
I could ask the same thing.
Yeah.
Yes. So even he's kind of like, why did I make this movie?
So speaking of why the hell did this movie get made?
Oh.
We're going to go ahead and move on because we've been talking about this one for too long.
Yeah, Kuso doesn't deserve that much more air.
It's bad. It's fucking garbage. I hate it.
So our final film we're going to be talking about is Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets.
Speaking of garbage.
Well, okay, yeah.
Well, we already talked this movie quite a bit, last week, but Hawk has seen the movie and has quite a different opinion from that of Bill. So we'd like to bring him in and
just to preface this, I gave it like 2.5 out of 5 stars, which is like 4 beers maybe.
Okay.
So it's not. I didn't think it was that terrible, but it wasn't that good either. So that's where we're starting this at. Go ahead, Hawk.
Yeah, I hated it. I was miserable. This movie, before I saw this with a friend of mine, and before the movie started, I looked up the running time just because we were planning on getting dinner afterwards. And it's the runtime was 2 hours and 17 minutes. A ways to the film, I started to wonder. I was like, did I misread that? And this is actually 3 hours and 17 minutes because the pacing of this movie is so bad. It just feels fucking long. It is, after it was over, I looked at my friend and I was like, did that feel long to you? And she was like, I thought it would never end.
Yeah.
The movie opens with this really cool montage. It starts with, the Americans meeting the Russians on the ISS. And then it kind of like escalates from there where different other aliens from different worlds come and attach themselves to the space station until it's this monolith of different cultures and ideas. And it's this big melting pot of all that where everything is shared. And that's a really cool concept for a story. And every time the movie starts to go into a direction that's interesting for a narrative or a theme, it veers off in a different direction. It's like, fuck you. You get to watch this movie instead. And it was so disappointing at every step of the way, where every time something interesting happens, it just teases you with that and then does something else. Not to mention, as the movie goes on, it gets more and more generic every scene. Did you get that same feel at all, Bill?
More and more generic? Yes, I did.
Okay, good. Also, the Clive Owen was everything about Clive Owen was really funny in this movie, especially because right from his opening scene, this guy is obviously a total shitbag, and then by the end of the movie, spoilers, even though it's actually not a spoiler, they treat his villainy as a huge reveal.
Yes.
Like he wipes out an entire planet, and then this officer, but like in a flashback, I was like, "Are you sure I should do this, sir?" And then Clive Owen's face is obscured. He's like, "Yes, do it." And
what I loved about that whole, what I loved about that whole reveal sequence where Valerian is like laying out how he conducted his quote unquote master plan of secrecy.
Yeah.
There's this one bit where, and then you killed off anyone who knew, and then they cut to a shot of Clive Owen literally shooting a guy in the face.
Yeah, and
out of nowhere, he just comes up to him, poop. I was like, that's comedy, right? Like,
well, Felix and I were talking about that scene. And she was saying that like if he only has to kill one person to cover his tracks. And my favorite part of that sequence was Valerian was like, "You were there in the control room," and there's this camera movement like behind his head, like, it, like swoops around to his face, and the movie wants to tell us, "Holy shit, that's Clive Owen." But 5 minutes earlier, you hear him talking when his face is obscured, and you're like, that kind of sounds like Clive Owen.
Right, exactly.
It was so dumb, and it's not to. I also laughed at. I lost it in the theater when I saw Clive Owen's costume. Like he wears his breastplate over his military uniform. It looks fucking stupid.
Right, yes,
it's so bad.
And I'm trying to imagine Clive Owen in this movie, and watching it, it was just very difficult to picture him being cast in this. It seemed like it was very bad miscasting. Like you would do this movie as an actor if you were on the downswing of your career.
Well, he kind of is, isn't he?
I guess he is. Yeah, I suppose so.
What has he been in recently? So I'm looking it up because I want to see what else he's been in, because I don't think he's been in anything good recently.
I literally cannot find any image of Clive Owen wearing like a weird costume. So
he was in that movie with Robert De Niro and Jason Statham a couple years ago.
Which one was that?
He played a bad guy with a mustache, and Robert De Niro was like the partner of Jason Statham. They were like mercenaries or something. And
are you talking about Killer Elite?
Yes,
that one was okay. They kind of didn't really market it correctly.
Yeah,
but
the last movie of any real note that I can see was Killer Elite probably was that. I mean, he was in the HBO made-for-TV movie Hemingway and Gellhorn, and I heard that was pretty good. But that's I mean, he's in a lot of other movies, but I haven't even heard of most of them.
Yeah. Speaking of miscasting, you said miscasting in terms of Clive Owen, but the casting decisions of this movie go far beyond Clive Owen. Dane DeHaan is I really like Dane DeHaan as an actor, but he is a terrible choice for Valerian.
Yes,
because all of his lines suggest this roguish Han Solo type character, whereas Dane DeHaan is still he looks like a 15-year-old kid playing dress up. His chemistry with Cara Delevingne is completely non-existent.
Now they're supposed to be like boyfriend and girlfriend, right?
I don't know, because in their opening conversation, he tells her that he wants to marry her, but there's no context provided for any of that. Like, there's no foundation for if they've been together, or if they just bang sometimes. And he keeps
because what creeps me out about it is they look like brother and sister.
They look a lot alike, yeah.
Yeah, like creepily alike.
Yeah, and Laureline, Delevingne's character in the comic is like a redhead, and so I don't even know why they cast her in this movie. Neither one of them look anything like their counterparts in the comic. There was an interesting scene. One thing I liked a lot in the movie was there's this marketplace scene where it's a planet that's pretty much barren and enclosed in this walls. It looks like Tatooine, kind of, like a lot. But there's this marketplace, but to experience the marketplace, you have to put on a pair of VR goggles, and to interact with the marketplace, you got to wear a certain type of glove that lets you reach into the marketplace where everything is. Problem with this movie is that there's a lot of really cool technology, but it never really makes sense. A strong sci-fi film will give you interesting technology that's fresh, but the way that the movie presents it to you feels like you've been handed a brand new smartphone that nobody else has, and you get to play around with it and experience it and see what it does. But in Valerian, or in these movies, the movie kind of it works its internal logic around the technology, so it makes sense to the viewer without really explaining what it does. Valerian gives you the technology, but doesn't really give you any context for it. So you're kind of like, that's cool, but I don't know what the fuck it is. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to describe. Bill, can you like describe that better than I can?
What, the technology in this movie? I mean,
Not
like,
the function of it, but the feeling that you get while
oh,
watching that.
yeah. The movie is highly imaginative with its technology, yes, and it kind of feels appropriate for the sequences going on for the what's happening on the screen. It seems to work just fine for the characters, but when you think about it afterwards, it's a little confusing, and you're left more with questions than answers. You know,
Yeah,
as opposed to feeling comfortable with it and just leaving it as is and moving forward, you're like, wait a minute. So how does that work again?
yeah, exactly.
Like there's this
Um,
box that Dane DeHaan's arm is stuck in, and the box allows him to also tap into the other dimension.
or
But
whatever.
we cut to him in the desert in comedy moments where he's just playing against himself. And then we cut back to the other dimension and he's there and it's just his arm floating around the air. And then we cut back to, there's a lot of things in this movie that are kind of confusing. Like, wait a minute. Okay. So he's in that world, but if he gets hit, does he get hurt?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like how does that work? How does, it's like, well, what if he fully disappears? Does that make the other dimension, can they still attack him?
yeah. There's no internal logic to the way the technology is supposed to work in the movie. Uh,
Yeah.
there, there is this literally 30-minute plot detour that does nothing for the story late in the film. Um, Loreline she's like, oh, these butterflies are beautiful, and Valerian's like, yeah, but don't touch them. She's like, why not? And then she touches one and she gets yanked up, and it turns out that some of these floating butterflies are just fake lures by these aliens that are looking for a meal for their emperor. And so Loreline's going to get eaten by this emperor, and Valerian follows her up there and watches a striptease by Rihanna, who is an alien who shapeshifts named Bubbles, and then Bubbles helps him rescue Loreline.
No, her name is Bubble, not Bubbles,
Oh,
I think.
who the fuck cares?
Yes.
It's but and then once they escape, nothing else has happened in the movie. Like that again, literally 30 minutes doesn't advance the plot or the characters or affect anything whatsoever except be an extra 30 minutes of movie.
It was just a diversion.
It was a diversion that did nothing, and like the subplots should tie into an overarching plot, but nothing
Now
changes.
they did cut back and forth to that random officer who was taking over for Clive Owen, as he was leading a quote unquote investigation as to what the fuck was happening, and all it was him walking back and forth on the main deck, staring at different computer screens, asking for access.
Yeah, and then he sees Axis 9. He's like, "Well, this doesn't smell right to me." And every scene, he's like, "Something's wrong here. Something's pretty sinister." This Clive Owen might be an asshole.
It was like the movie was stuck in a Mobius strip. It was like, he said this a second ago that nothing smells right. Why is he still stuck in the same mode?
Yeah. This movie just spins its tires over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And there was one other thing that really bugged me. I think it was some kind of plot thing.
Was there anything as dumb as bees recognize royalty?
Here's the thing: is that Jupiter Ascending was terrible, but it was really entertaining by how stupid it was. Not the least of which was Eddie Redmayne's overacting.
Yes,
very true.
Valerian takes itself very seriously as an adventure movie with some comedy elements, but it's more frustrating because with Jupiter Ascending, it's like strap the fuck in because this is going to get wacky.
Because in Jupiter Ascending, they swung for the moon in terms of their ideas, and of course they missed completely. But
well, it depends on what they were going for. I'm not really sure. Valerian, you can see from the very beginning what it's going for, and it sucks.
Fair enough.
It's an incredibly misguided movie. I don't really know what else to say except I when it was over, I looked at my friend and I said that was terrible. and we were getting dinner, and there were just while we were eating, there was just long pauses. And this is a friend I've known for years, and we can talk comfortably, but just pauses, and like, you know, every few minutes, one of us was like, "I can't believe that we just watched that. I don't really know what to say." You know, like I'm kind of just lost, just chewing the same bite for 10 minutes, staring off in the middle distance.
You've shared a traumatic moment together, and
shared a traumatic moment together. It's I don't even know what else to say. I'm just baffled. Especially this came from the director of The Fifth Element. I know that was a long time ago, and since then he's made Lucy, and he's produced 9 Lives and Taken 3, and so much other shit. But yeah, I don't even know what else to say. It's not good.
Well, on that bombshell, we'll go ahead and wrap it up then for this episode. And next week we have, I don't even remember what we have coming up.
We have Atomic Blonde and the Emoji Movie.
Right.
Emoji Movie. A Ghost Story. A Ghost Story is coming out near me.
Oh, that might be coming out near me too. I'll have to see that. I saw a great comment on the Emoji Movie on Reddit. It just said, "Every day we move further away from God's light."
Wow, that's harsh.
It is.
All right, so we will reconvene next week and talk about them.
All right.
We'll talk about them movies.
That memories.
You might be a movie critic if
you want.